Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Marianne Maninang, proud wife of Ezer, that guy over there. Mom of Anika, proud mom of Anika and EJ. Okay. I am a registered nurse by profession, working the night shift 3 times a week in an OB maternity unit or mother-baby unit at Huntington Memorial Hospital in Pasadena. Today, I'm going to share to you 2 patient encounters I will never forget personally and professionally as a nurse, leaving a mark so profound that it became defining moments in my Christian life. The OB maternity unit where I presently work is a happy, positive, and inspiring place where you celebrate a new life and meet people from all walks of life, each of them with life stories to tell, inspire and sometimes frustrate, but needed to be understood nonetheless. The first patient encounter I would like to share to you was a patient of mine years ago named Linda, who fought breast cancer before getting pregnant. Yes, she and her husband wanted this baby very much despite opposition from family members to start a family of their own. They didn't have much materially, but they didn't mind, because they have one thing they value most above the rest: the baby they have been praying and longing. They didn't have, then 2 weeks before her due date, they found out that the ugly cancer cells came back. Before I knew, I could not really tell that there was a dark cloud looming above them. They were just as happy as the next couple next door who just had a baby. I will never forget what Linda told me. Under the circumstances, they just have to let go and let God and be fully present at the moment and appreciate all that God had given them in their lives, especially now that their wish have been granted. I took care of Linda and her baby for 2 days. Radiation and chemotherapy were started right away after she was discharged per doctor's orders. As I pondered upon their circumstances, I admired this couple's determination, courage, and trust in God. Oftentimes, living day to day is hard, especially if uncertainty of the future lingers. But this couple did it with dignity, grace, and gratefulness in their hearts. They lived the life that was a reflection of the values they hold dear, which gave me a profound insight as Christians. Despite the hustle and bustle of our life today, go back to the core of who you are in Christ. The values we should hold dear, determined by eternal values instead of society's values, and the sound Christian principles we're encouraged to live by. Moving on, the second patient that I would like to share was an encounter with Sharon, a Scientology patient assigned to me who wanted her silent birth experience extended to the postpartum unit. I first knew about silent birth practice years ago when it was on the front cover of People magazine. The outspoken actor Tom Cruise, I'm sure you know him, a Church of Scientology member, would like Katie Holmes, his wife at that time, to follow the practice of silent birth, and it was putting a strain on their marriage. As you all know, they are divorced now, but that is beside the point. This silent birth practice, advised by its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, is urging everyone, including doctors and nurses, to be quiet during the birthing process. Sharon not only agreed not to speak during the birthing process, but to care for her newborn without subjecting her baby to loud sounds, talking, stress, or pain throughout the baby's first week of life. Because, according to this belief, words spoken of pain and unconsciousness during these moments have adverse effects on one later in life. So right from the start, She refused all newborn mandatory blood tests that was required in the state of California. As I read her birth plan extended to the postpartum nurses, 2 pages of them, I started to have a splitting headache. Sure enough, she was not my typical patient who is loud and happy and would like to announce to the whole world that she just had a brand new baby. Sharon, the extreme one, wanted silent breastfeeding, no talking, no cooing, no verbal connection, which I think would impair the bonding process of mother and child. The birth plan request was not only unreasonable, but crazy, and was making my job description too hard to execute. Sharon, who happened to be a lawyer, okay, who was also unreasonable and crazy for choosing this birth plan. But you never argue with your patients in matters of belief in the workplace, right? It's like Sharon, who is a lawyer, should never argue with the star witness in the courtroom during cross-examination, or else she will be reprimanded by the judge in front of the jury. Well, that was what I learned when I served as one of the jurors in a trial for the first time last year. Okay, moving on, back to Sharon's story. As I was mentally sweating, trying to figure out how to take care of her and her newborn, and instruct her on her plan of care for the next 24 hours of her admission, teach her about breastfeeding without making a sound, it dawned to me, looking back, this was probably what my parents thought of me, crazy and unreasonable, when I told them years ago that I was leaving our family's Catholic beliefs and practices to join the worldwide Church of God, who does celebrate birthdays, Christmas, Easter, and among others. Sharon, so sincere with her beliefs, humbly reminded me of my spiritual past. There were a lot of Sharons up there, and I was suddenly overwhelmed with compassion for them. Sharon got her request for silent recovery from me and was very grateful. Brethren, remember the game charade? The game we always play at Pastor Burmese place, New Year's Eve? I was never good on that game. So acting out the nursing plan for Sharon was out of the question. Instead, I wrote everything in paper that Sharon critically needed to know in the first 24 hours of her admission. Doing so, I spent a lot of time with her than any other patient I had that night. Well, partly because she could not read my handwriting, which contributed to my mounting frustration. I just wanted to scream at her and forget the silent birth recovery she requested for her and her baby. But of course, I cannot do that. All I can do was mutter to myself words of frustration in my native dialect as I left her room. I was ready to go home in the middle of my shift. Towards the end of my shift, I was almost tempted to leave a PS note telling Sharon, Sharon, leave Church of Scientology, who holds that man to be basically good, and his spiritual salvation depends upon himself, his fellow men, and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. Leave because there is a much better offer out there. But of course, wisdom tells me not to do so. Brethren, these are the 2 patients I will never forget, whose life stories left a profound mark in me as a Christian. Linda, her husband, under difficult circumstances, lived their lives with courage, gratefulness, and trust in God, as well as lived their lives that was a reflection of the values they hold dear. Then Sharon, who humbly reminded me of my spiritual past, my encounter which made me more compassionate, spiritually lost.